Hi, this is Jamie Castillo, and this is my video response for PE 570 on the budgeting forum. So I pretty much based my forum off the high school that I attended about 9 years back, and um, I didn't really know how to budget everything. So the way I interpreted the monies was that I was going to divide the monies up depending on the size of the team. Football having the most amount of players on their team, um, I did dedicate a lot more money to the football team because they do need a lot more resources due to all their players. Um, so I looked at it that way. I added up what the approximate amount of numbers. I did talk to a lot of friends who did sports in different sports that I did not compete in myself to see like how many players they had, how many coaches they had, and then I counted up all the players to have like a good lump sum of all the athletes at the school, and then I would I'd give each team a percentage based on how many players they had in relation to how many athletes at the school there were in total. So I did that. So like golf and tennis and I believe it was water polo. Oh yeah, golf, water polo, and tennis were the few smallest teams. So they had the less amount of money allocated for those departments. The other ways that they can raise money was by fundraising, doing and boosters. I combined those two categories together. I also created a contribution category where parents and athletes would have to pay out of pocket. Going to school myself, from what I understand, all the athletes had to pay for their own uniform and also their own team apparel. The only ones that pretty much got a little bit of help was football and basketball, but they also fundraised more money. So the more money that they fundraised, the more money they had to go towards uniforms that year. As the aquatics department, we raised enough money to send us to tournaments and to send us to different out of district games. So I did try to appropriate it that way. Um, Once I did the allocated amount of money, I went into expenses and I broke it down into coaches' wages, their equipment, field equipment, practice equipment, game equipment. I felt like all those need their own categories. Tournaments, uniforms, team apparel like T-shirts and stuff that they would wear during on the days of their game day, and then like team shirts and whatnot. And then I added all the totals up together. So, like I said, parents paid for the uniforms and their team apparel. So I showed it in the budget that it was an expense because the school is going to pay for them. But I also showed an income of the parents' contribution so that way you can see that cash flow. And anything else other than that, I took the allocated amount. I created my spreadsheet to show me a negative amount, so that way I can put appropriately where fundraising should go. I also created an income line item for sports that were able to bring in revenue due to ticket sales, such as basketball. I know varsity basketball and varsity football were the two main ones that were able to get ticket revenue at our school. So I did make it for that. I also added in for volleyball, varsity volleyball, and varsity girls basketball. So that way, all those teams would be appropriate for those attendance. And then whatever was a negative a mark, I added a little bit more money to it for their fundraising goal. And then what at the bottom, whatever money they had left, because I kept each team in a category underneath their field. So like track, soccer, football, all were under the football field because that's where they practice. And then for the basketball courts, I had basketball, volleyball, wrestling, and then the pool obviously was water polo and swimming. and then tennis courts was tennis, baseball fields are baseball and softball, and then I had off-campus sites such as golf, because most high schools don't have their own golf course. They would actually send their students to have to travel there almost every day to practice on a sponsored golf course, at least for our high school. That was the case. And then cross country pretty much ran around the campus, not necessarily on anything itself. So their monies would go more towards their equipment stuff for those two off campuses. Everybody else who had extra funding, it would be put into the maintenance, because there's only $500 for the whole year. I figured that there needed to be a little bit more leeway. So whatever fundraising was left over, it went into the maintenance for that particular group. And so that's also showing. The rest of the budgeting would be my office supplies. So I broke it down to paper goods, writing utensils, anything to do with a whiteboard. I also did miscellaneous office supplies like staplers, staples, tape dispensers, and then furniture, because sometimes like the desk would break or a chair would break. You need to supply those, and those are not cheap. And then lastly, I would allocate some money to any type of computer repair or necessary like buying out. So that's how I did my budget. I look forward to hearing everybody else's response. Have a good day. Bye.